Welcome to the Artists Forum. I am your host tonight, Dyllon Burnside, and as our first guest, we have accomplished filmmaker Lawrence Walker. Welcome to the show, Lawrence.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for being here. You have quite the resume, quite the bio there. You do a lot of different things, and in addition to your work as a filmmaker, you also have a production company, Bullseye Productions?
Well, Bullseye, I was part of another filmmaker, and it was Bullseye Production, but I'm out of that. Now I developed my own company called Pure History, which focuses on everybody's history.
You seem to have a lot of emphasis on history in a lot of the things that you do.
Well, as a filmmaker, when I graduated many moons ago, I won't tell you my age, I decided to, me and my partner at the time with Bullseye, we were doing commercials, corporate pieces, and I stumbled into watching documentaries on PBS. And I was watching a slavery documentary, and at the end of the documentary, I was so upset with that documentary. My mother was living at the time, so I threw my shoe at the TV. And my mother, what's wrong with you? And I said, I don't like the way they portrayed our history. And she said, well, if you don't like it, then do it yourself. And a bell rung in my head, and that started my journey on doing documentaries. And I never looked back from there.
At what point in your life and career did this moment happen for you, where you were already working as a filmmaker, but doing
short corporate films, commercials, and hiring ourselves out to TV stations? And then I started doing short documentaries, little short pieces, and I wanted to expand. And so I wanted to focus on our history, because too often African-American history is not being told properly. And I felt, as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, as a writer and a researcher, as I traveled around the world researching history, I felt it was important for me to talk about our history and try to dot the lines and cross the T's properly.
You mentioned your mother briefly there. She seems to have been very instrumental in your life and in your career. You quoted in your bio that she said to you when you went off to college, remember what you are going to college for and what you are there for. Stay focused on your studies and make me proud. Sounds a lot like my mother. How did that affect you?
Well, that affected me a lot, because when I was on my graduation line in college, and she was proud, I saw the tears dripping down her eyes, because I was the first one in our family to graduate from college. And as I got my degree, when I came home, and she said to me, I don't care how much accolades, how much degrees you get, how many fancy houses or cars you get, that doesn't mean nothing. She said, what means something is leaving a legacy, leaving something that people can remember you by. Make me proud. And that stuck with me over the years. She's no longer here, but that stays in the back of my mind, to leave a legacy, leave something that 50, 100 years from now, they say the name Lawrence E. Walker, and people will know. And my process over the last 7 years is focusing on pure history, building a website that focuses on everybody's history. And that's my legacy with my collections, my works, and everything I have done over the years.
Was education a big deal for you guys at home as a family? Was that something that she stressed?
Well, she didn't stress it too much. As I got into my high school year in college, I realized that education was important. Yes, she stressed it because she wanted to make sure we came home with A's and B's. And if she saw something less than that, she looked at you pretty hard. So I knew I wanted more out of high school. I was an art major. I loved painting and drawing. And my first year in college, that was my major. After that first year, my major changed to filmmaking. I felt I didn't want to be a struggling artist, and I saw an opportunity to get into a field that I can open my eyes and tell a story. And filmmaking, my sophomore year, has just taken me to another direction that I wanted to go.
What was that moment for you when you realized that you wanted to be a filmmaker? What sparked your interest in it?
Well, I was on campus, and in the middle of my freshman year, I was on campus, and I was at a bus stop, and I was with a friend, and the bus stopped in front of me, facing the campus. And this filmmaker got off the bus with, at the time, they were the porta packs. We call them dinosaur, the over-the-pack cameras with the tubes. Now cameras are small. But I saw this particular student with the camera, and I stopped him. I said, "What's that you have?" He said, "Oh, we have a film club on campus. Why don't you come join us tonight?" I'm like, "Okay." So that night I went to the film club, and I signed up and joined, and the next day I changed my major. I said, forget fine arts. I'll pick that up at painting and drawing. I'll pick that up at another time, but let me change my major and change it now.
That's amazing. What was it about it, though?
Well, what sparked more and more, once I changed the major, I started changing my classes. So I took photography 1, photography 2, and that gave me an eye for being behind the lens, seeing lights and colors the way I saw it on canvas by painting and drawing, but photography gave me another avenue of expressing myself. And from photography, it went to filmmaking, video at the time we called it, and the more I watched TV and watched other filmmakers, that gave me an idea. The artistic part of it was always in my head, but I had to see things behind the lens that I can tell a story.
What were, once you decided to change your major, what were some of the things that you learned in class as a part of your education that helped take you to the next level? Well,
classroom was just giving you the basic tools on expressing yourself. Mm-hmm. I felt the creative juice was here, mm-hmm. but classroom was just guiding you and leading you as to you can try different things. You know, you can write a certain way, you can photograph different things, and filmmaking was just the expression of giving you the creative juice. And that, because I was an artist, I can see things that sometimes the normal person don't see. And when behind a lens and you watch TV and you see other filmmakers, you grab ideas and concepts that you blend it into your artwork at the same time. So I felt, you know, the classroom study gave me the avenue into the direction. The rest, you have to have that creative juice at the same time. Sometimes it comes with certain filmmakers and sometimes it takes a little while, but I've always felt I had the creative juice and I had the drive and the driven part of it to make something really happen.
Yeah. And so you are also the founder of the Lawrence Walker Foundation, which brings educational opportunities for in the field of arts and TV to young people. What are some of the things that you would like to impart to young people as they are learning about art and TV?
Well, the foundation, let me back up a second. The foundation was created when me and my partner was doing film work, when I realized too often artists or filmmakers have a hard time getting the funds to create their projects. And I decided to create a foundation in my name. Part of it was to protect my legacy, my work, or my archival work, my photograph, my research, my film, and to kind of knock on doors to say I need funds to create this next project. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, if I didn't get the funds, I grew up around a mother that says, if somebody tells you no, that means yes. You go over them, under them, around it, but get it done. So most of the time I did my projects out of my pocket, but I've learned I control the footage, I control the material, mm-hmm. I control the collection. So the foundation was created out of that so I can move in a direction that I wanted to go. And from there, then Pure History was developed a little after that.
And just in going further about you being able to control the footage and control the stories being told, talk to us a little bit about the film that you have most recently been working on, Sweet Georgia Brown.
Well, Sweet Georgia Brown was developed, let me back up, back in '97. I went to, I was, at the time, the Tuskegee Airmen project came on HBO mm-hmm. TV. And after I watched the film, I looked at it and said, oh, I can do a documentary off that film project. So I started doing research on it. A historian in New Jersey contacted me and said, I heard you're working on another project. Come to my house. So I went to his house, knocked at his door. He said, have a seat. And I watched him go up into his attic. And when he came down from the attic, he had this huge old scrapbook, and he put it on my lap. Mm. And he said, open it up. And I opened up that scrapbook and I saw these black and white pictures of Tuskegee Airmen in uniform. His father was Captain Terry. He was one of those trainers on that Air Force base. He said, keep turning the pages. And I kept turning the pages. And all of a sudden I saw these beautiful black and white pictures of African-American women in uniform. And I said, wow. And he said to me, if you got a minute, let me tell you the story. Let me give you the history on how African-American women served and served proudly. And after he finished that story, he said to me, you don't need to do your next project on the Tuskegee Airmen. That was just done, HBO done it. But do the story on these women, how they served 50 years ago. Their history was lost. He didn't have to tell me twice. And he gave me 2 books to go home and read. Brenda L. Moore's book that came out in '97, To Serve My Country, to Serve My Race, and Major Charity Adams Early, the first African-American major with a regiment of 855 women in a rank. And the process started from there. Once I read both books, I went to the National Archives, Library of Congress, pulled all of those photographs that was locked up in vaulted in storage for over 50 years, and I knew I was on the right track. Every filmmaker wants to be the first to do something that somebody hasn't done. And the journey took me 10 years. I never thought it would take this long, because I picked the project up, I put it down, pick it up, put it down. And I funded it out of my pocket, but I controlled the footage. So once I got the photograph and did the research, then it's finding the women. Where are they? Once I found one, and one told me, you need to go talk to this person, you need to go talk to this person.
Wow.
So I have about good 50, 60 interviews in storage, and all those tons, probably over 1,000 photographs that I control and collect. And I knew by starting this journey, I had to get them, because they were up in age at that point. And I knew once they go, all that history is gone. Mm-hmm. So it was important to document their story, because it was lost in time.
And where and when can someone see this, what sounds to be like an amazing piece of history and film?
I've been screening it across the country, and I'm hoping I can get it on a cable network or maybe PBS between now and Black History Month. But I have copies of it if they reach out to me at purehistory.org. My telephone number is there, and I'd be happy to mail out a copy. The total running time on the documentary is 1.5 hours, but when I screen it across the country, I screen just the hour version. But if they reach out to me, I'd be happy to. But I'm hoping to get it on TV between now and Black History Month.
Amazing. Thank you, Mr. Walker, for being with us.
Thank you.
Once again, we have Lawrence Walker. If you want to get in contact with him and hear more about his film, contact him at www.purehistory.org.
The Artist Forum. Get connected, be heard. The Artist Forum is a place where artists of all disciplines can network, collaborate, and showcase their work. On the Artist Forum's AFTV, you'll see interviews with New York's emerging talents in theater, dance, music, visual arts, the written word, as well as insights from industry insiders. Watch us on MNN Channel 4 every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. I'm Elliot Torres, and I'll see you on the Artist Forum.
Welcome back to the Artist Forum. I'm your host, Dyllon Burnside, and with us we have painter, sculptor, and illustrator Sonia Stark. Welcome to the Artist Forum, Sonia.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us. So, talk to me a little bit about what inspires Sonia Stark. What do you find in your life and in the world that inspires you to begin working on a piece?
Basically, everything.
Okay.
And nothing. Being an artist is something that where you just have to go, be there, show up, and do the work. Mm-hmm. And then whatever comes in from the outside world just sort of just comes in almost beside you. Mm-hmm. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know where the art comes from. I don't know where or why it comes, but it just, if I show up, it comes. And that's about it.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. Julia Cameron, she has written a book, I don't know if you're familiar with it, called The Artist's Way.
Yes.
And in it, she deals a lot with this idea of showing up to the page. especially as a writer, and just writing things down and letting it move through you. And she operates under the belief that you don't necessarily have to know what you're going to say, but you just have to write, and whatever comes out is what comes out, and it's worthy. Is that kind of how you find yourself approaching?
Yes, it's very much so. But I think until you get there, you've had to have a lot of training and a lot of studying, a lot of hard work. And then you can go and let it happen. Mm-hmm. I really don't feel that one just sits down and does it. You really do have to have the background.
So what was your background? Talk to us a little bit about your training and your educational history.
Actually, I started without the training.
Okay.
And worked commercially for many years.
Doing?
Design, okay. And in the agencies. I was there in Mad Men.
I see.
I was there at that time.
Was it that fabulous?
Yes. Well, I don't know about fabulous, but it was not a woman's world, and but it was an interesting world. But in order to leave that world, I went back to school, mm-hmm. And then I went to Cooper Union.
Yes. And
then after that, I started freelancing, and then it grew from there. I started an agency, actually freelancing, and then it developed and it grew and became an agency.
In your education, what was the most pivotal moment for you that kind of transformed you as an artist? You spoke a little bit about needing to have the training and the education before you can get to that place. When was that moment where you felt like, I have enough, I know what I'm doing enough to kind of feel my way through this?
It's not even knowing enough. It's a matter of being secure enough to say, I can say what I want to say. Mm. It's a little different.
Yeah.
It's not saying I know enough and I'm going to do it. You can do that commercially, but when it comes to the art, you can't do that. But what it does, you feel secure that you can make a statement and it's valid. That's the only way I could explain it.
Wow. That's really, really poignant. I think for most artists that I've spoken with, there is definitely this sense of confidence especially in their words and in speaking about the art and knowing what their point of view is. So to hear you say that really resonates with me. You mentioned a little bit about how you aren't really sure what's going to happen, and it kind of shows up next to you and mm-hmm. just kind of takes over and has a life of its own. When do you know when you're done with it? When you
There's nothing more that you can do to it. You can't destroy it anymore.
Yeah.
No. When you really, when there's just not another line that you can put on the thing.
Yeah.
That's it.
And as an artist who works in multiple mediums,
yes.
How do you move through the different mediums? How do you determine what you're going to do?
It's in showing up, coming in and sort of deciding. And it depends also if I have a model or if I don't have a model, mm-hmm. and it really depends on that. I really don't know.
So are you working every day? Is that typically?
I try.
Okay.
I have, I should explain that I had a family. That's how the agency got started. I had children, and I couldn't hit a deadline, so I had to hire people to hit the deadline. Mm-hmm. And still today, I have a family and children, and that's takes up a great deal of space. Mm-hmm. So it may not be every day, right. But as often as I can be in there.
And when you show up, what is it? Do you have a studio space?
Yes.
Or, so when you show up to the studio, what happens? What happens when you step into that sacred space?
It's not very sacred. It's very messy.
Okay.
And I go in and I usually start straightening up.
Okay.
And then I don't know, then it sort of starts happening, and you slowly pick up a piece of paper, pick up the clay or whatever.
Okay.
Unless you have in commercial work, you have a goal. You have to do this head, or you have to do this illustration, or you have to do this layout, and it has to be done by Tuesday morning. And in the art, you don't function that way. So for someone like me, that's not good, because I will tend to wander from one to the other, and I don't know. And how shall we say it? I just start, and then it sort of goes, as I said, takes over. It's a different brain. The commercial brain is where you're solving other people's problems. They're what they need,
Right.
visually. And when you're doing your own work, it's your own problems that you're solving. And that's where I say it sort of comes in, and I don't know where it comes from.
Sure. So to a young artist who is maybe has just moved to New York this year, and they're watching tonight, and they are trying to find their way as an artist. They maybe have a studio apartment, and they're just trying to figure out what this thing is. I know a lot of artists tend to feel like they have issues with procrastination, or
Yes.
they can never get work done, or it's always just like in process and they can never figure out what it is. It sounds to me, hearing from someone as accomplished as you, that that's all a part of it and it's something that should be embraced. Is that how you feel?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And especially for young artists, they're doubting themselves constantly. That's the hard part. And also, the young person that's coming in, they're trying to make a living, they're trying to support themselves. And no one tells them they're great and you're the first person that's, you're going to be in the museums next month, and it's not going to happen. And so you just really have to produce the work, do the work, and in the end, it will sort of work itself out. It's how to say it? It's the work that counts. That's all that counts. The rest of it doesn't. Your life, and it sounds crazy, but your life does not count. It's what you've done, what you're doing, doesn't matter. In the end, it's only the piece of work.
Right. And according to you, that is coming,
it just comes.
It just comes.
Yeah, it does.
And so what would be your piece of advice, your encouragement to that artist who is in that place where they feel stuck, where they feel frustrated and discouraged because they can't seem to get it done, and they don't know where the inspiration is coming from, and what is your...
Embrace it. Embrace that feeling of not knowing. Don't be frightened. I think that's a big thing. Don't be frightened, especially for someone young. And again, show up. Just do the work. Throw it away. Don't. That's another thing. Everything you do is not precious. So if you start and it's not working, that's okay, because the next one will work or not. But if you keep working at it, it will eventually work. Something will come up.
Yes. You have a piece called Family that is remarkable. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Talk to me just a little bit about where that came from for you. When did you work on it? How long did it take you to finish it? What was that process like for you?
That actually, typical, it started out as a pure abstraction.
Okay.
And as I worked through it, again, I don't know where it came from, but it took on this other feeling about the mother, the child, and the man. I seem to focus, while I'm an abstract painter, I do feel I focus on that. I try to, the emotional part of the art. That's all I can say.
And what emotion does it evoke for you? What does it mean to you?
That one, what it means? I can be poetic and I can be all those things, but I'm not going to. It's a painting.
It's a painting, and I love that.
It's a painting.
It's a painting. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here with us today, Sonia Stark.
Thank you.
You heard it here with Sonia Stark today. Just be open, embrace it, let it be. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight on the Artist Forum. I'm Dyllon Burnside, your host.